Well, that's the only thing we have left is, I mean, we can export democracy, American democracy. Don't spit out your water there, Danny. You know, yeah, and look, I love my country. I just, you know, I'm so proud to be an American, and I feel that I'm lucky to have been born in this country. Um, but man, we got some problems. We can fix them. I'd like us to fix them. I think, you know, we could get back on the right track. But if we're going to pretend that American democracy is the model, the role model, first of all, you don't understand. Even if it was, democracy grows from within. It's never imposed from without. So the idea that we can take this democratic system that is a product of 200 plus years of history, imperfect history, but history nonetheless, and then impose it intact on other nations that don't have shared history, shared cultures, etc., is absurd. Democracy has to grow from within, and then you get the strongest kind of democracies. But we don't understand those. For instance, like Russian democracy, we don't understand the notion of a Russian parliamentarian body that composed of people that like agree on most things. See, we don't. We're Democrats versus Republicans. We can't agree because partisan politics requires us to disagree with them when they do, even if they're right. No, in Russia, it's like, yeah, that's the right thing. Okay, we're gonna do that. I'm not pretending that Russia's democracy is perfect, but it's Russian democracy, and we sort of should let it grow with them from within. It'd probably get better for the Russians, which is all it's there to do. It's not there to get better for us. Better to get better for the Russians. Um, I had an idea, and then I just lost it because I went down that path. Ask me your question one more time.
Well, the question was just factoring in the context of all that we've talked about with China and its rising stature, its like legitimately historic diplomatic achievements, global leadership role, the connection between its domestic politics, economic situation, just seemingly improving by the year, by the decade, and then factoring that into the fact that now you have the United States escalating, and escalating as you see, we're seeing this contrast, right? There's this contrast between the two, and the United States are not even really paying attention. Actually, you probably remember this, Scott. February 24th, after 2023, what did the United States say? China's not credible. China's not credible. They don't have any credibility in peace because, they just support the Russians.
Because they're Chinese. Well, that's
true.
They're Chinese. You know, they make good Chinese food. That's all. No, we're stupid. We don't understand China. If there's a nation we understand less than Russia, it's China. But no, the point I was trying to get at is, who was it? Was it Ned Price that just came out with one of the most ridiculous statements in the history of ridiculous statements about in the history of America's involvement in the Middle East, all we brought is stability, and we are the cornerstone of stability. And I'm like, no, in the history of the Middle East, all we brought is instability. We have the reverse Midas touch. Everything we touch dies. And China, on the other hand, has just a whole different approach to this. If I had kids going to college right now, I'd be telling them that you need to study the Chinese language and you need to study Chinese or Russian language, but you need to study one of those teams. The day of European studies is over. It's a wasted effort, and we need to figure out how to get a global economy that's based upon. We have to break away from this zero-sum game that we play. It dates back to the Cold War, where if we win, they lose. If they win, we lose. But we have to get in a situation where we need to both win, and we can. There's a possibility, as long as you're not playing the death match. There's a possibility that every outcome can be measured as a victory for everybody involved, because it doesn't have to be. But this is where China has a competitive edge over the United States. See, China recognizes that it needs global resources to survive. That it's not a self-sustaining. Russia has one of the unique opportunities in the world where if they play their cards right, Russia could actually become sort of this closed system where they have everything they need. They don't need to get anything from anybody. And again, you can thank Biden for for helping create that condition by sanctioning Russia. But it's a big landmass, a relatively small population with a tremendous amount of resources. China has a big landmass, but a huge population. They have good resources, but not enough. But China's approach isn't to do what America did. So China isn't imprinted with manifest destiny. God has not told, or Buddha has not told the Chinese, go forth and conquer the world in the name of your religion and your faith. What Chinese are is we're hungry. We need food. We're cold. We need energy. So who has food? Who has energy? Let's go do business with them like that. The United States doesn't operate that way. Well, the way we operate is we've created this thing called the American Dream, and it's contingent upon a certain economic standard that's almost impossible for most people to meet, but it's out there, the American Dream. In order to get to that standard, we need to consume, but we need to consume things in a price range that's affordable to the average American, which means that if we had to pay market value for the things we need to consume, the American people wouldn't be able to aspire to the American dream because it would be, you couldn't afford it. So we have to acquire things at less than market value. And how do you do that? You can't do that by business. You do it by robbing them. How do you rob them? With our military. So, Smedley Butler had it right. War is a racket. It wasn't about defending America. It was about defending the interests of, these huge, companies that were using the military to impose, American hegemony on them. And that's how America, that's what we have with Saudi Arabia. I think the Saudis are finally waking up to that. The Georgians, hopefully, are finally waking up to what, America's doing there. The whole world, Russia woke up to it. All those naive Russians who in the 1990s thought that America was there to help have now woken up, I think, to the fact that America is never there to help. We're not there to help. We're there to exploit to our advantage. And this American model of interfacing with the world has got to change. It has to change. And China can provide an example for that. It's not in China's interest for America to collapse. It's not anybody's interest for America to collapse. And if we live in a multipolar world where people are genuinely looking out for the welfare of their American colleagues, I can't say friends anymore because we're not friends with anybody, but colleagues, they may help us manage this redefining of our place in the world. That's going to happen. We have to reimagine, redefine where we are in the world. And again, China provides an outstanding example, but there's too much hubris, arrogance in the Americans. As you said, the war starts. China's got no credibility. Dude, they got more credibility than you've got. They got more credibility in the pinky than you got in the totality. When was the last time you successfully negotiated a peace agreement? Never. It's not what America does anymore. We go to war. The day of Theodore Roosevelt coming in and resolving the Russian Japanese war is over. All we do is go to war. That's all we do. It's the only tool we have. And we can't even afford that anymore. I mean, I just laugh at it because it's so predictable. We give away $115 billion worth of goods to financial and military goods to Ukraine. What does the Pentagon just come in? We need to spend $300 billion to make up for that which we gave away. So we gave away. I think that when you go with the military, it comes down around 40 to $50 billion, maybe less than that. But in order to replenish the 50 billion, we need to spend 300 billion. That is an economic equation that will never balance out. And, that's where we're at right now. It's ridiculous. And the Chinese, they're spending money on their military, but they would prefer not to. Oh, and this is the last thing I wanted to say about China. I mean, you know who the Kuomintang are. What have they been doing since November? Since they won that regional election? Last time I checked, they're sending delegations over into China, and they're having conversations with China about the future of Taiwan-Chinese relations that don't involve the United States trying to force them all to go to war. That's the future. You see, China doesn't want a war with Taiwan. I mean, it's the American generals that are saying there will be a war with Taiwan come 2025, 2027. There will be a war. And China's going, we don't want one. That's not what we're going. That's your interpretation. We want peace. And so while America's focused on whether or not Kevin McCarthy's going to fly to Taiwan to replay the Nancy Pelosi disaster and all that, the Kuomintang party sitting there going, we sort of like Taiwan the way it is right now, that one nation, two system thing. I think we can make that work. And that, the Chinese apparently are the best deal makers in the world. So anybody who said China's irrelevant, doesn't count, watch what they do. Watch what they did with Iran, Saudi Arabia. Watch what they'll try to do with Russia, Ukraine. And see what happens closer to home. If they can get the Kuomintang to commit to a peaceful resolution of this issue and box the United States right the heck out, man, the world would be a great place. Imagine not waking up every morning saying, is there a potential of thermonuclear war between Russia and the United States over Ukraine? And if we dodge that bullet, is there a potential of a thermonuclear war between China and the United States over Taiwan? Imagine waking up going, nope, nope. And who gets credit? China.